This video is made possible thanks to the support of my Patreons. If you enjoy my content, if you like this video, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I'll put a link in the description box. Okay, so I'm about to go see the Melania movie. It was directed by Brett Ratner, and I didn't know that. He was pushed out of Hollywood during the Me Too movement because of several very serious accusations. It's kind of insane because I've been researching every single aspect of Melania's life over the past week or so, and I genuinely forgot to even look up who directed the film. But anyway, I bought my ticket yesterday, so I'm gonna go. I really wanted to see this film and make a video about it because I think it's symptomatic of a broader cultural shift away from performative social progressivism towards mega culture, increasingly platformed by tech giants. I say this because the rights of this movie were bought by Amazon by its CEO Jeff Bezos for $40 million, which is wild because it looks like it's gonna flop. But the timing of the release is telling. We've been witnessing brutal attacks against undocumented individuals and protesters, as well as escalating tensions between the US and its allies.
For sure.
That's why to me, the release of Melania right now doesn't feel like a coincidence. Melania is a discreet woman, but she has always broken her silence to defend her husband when no one else would. She did so when the grab him by the tapes came out.
I believe my husband. That my husband is kind and he's a gentleman.
She did it again in 2023 when she declared she was pro-choice at a moment when female voters had largely turned their backs on Trump.
I want to be in charge of my own body. Why should somebody else tell me what to do?
And she did it recently when she asked protesters to protest peacefully just to avoid more death, I guess. It worked the first few times, but can it work again? Okay, I really need to go now. Wish me luck. I know it's gonna be bad, but someone has to do it so that you don't have to. Okay guys, reporter Alice here. The movie just ended. We were just two in the whole cinema, myself included. And to be fair, I'm not even sure what I've just watched. I was so bored at some point that I started thinking about what I read last night about the women who are so obsessed with Melania that they spent thousands of dollars in plastic surgery to look like her. I was thinking about how excited they must be to see the movie. That's the sort of thoughts that cross my mind, But anyway, one thing is clear. Even after the movie, we still don't know who Melania is, and I find this way too shady. So, what I propose to you is that I do the research, I dig in the archives, I watch the interviews, put that together, we meet back at the studio, and I'll share with you all the stuff I found. We gotta figure out who this woman is, okay? Let's go. Okay, look at this picture, and now compare to this one. On the left, you have Melania's promo image for the movie. On the right, you have Claire Underwood, the fictional first lady who becomes president in the series House of Cards. The similarity between the two is interesting, isn't it? Now look at this. This is 30 years ago. It's an ad where Melania is presented as a girl boss, as the president of the United States. So Melania seems to enjoy playing the role of a powerful businesswoman, which kind of contradicts her reputation as a submissive wife or gold digger. Actually, we don't really know what Melania's ambitions are, and to be fair, most of us don't even know who she is. As First Lady, she has remained extremely quiet, and her personality and life has been so mysterious that we're left searching for meaning in simple gestures like the choice of a hat or a hand pushed away. The release of her memoir and now her film were supposed to give us more insight, but everything feels so curated that it's hard to tell what's real and what's fictional. So in this first part, I'll share the information I've collected that hasn't been denied or publicly attacked by Melania. And to start off, we need to travel back to Slovenia. Melania Trump was born Melania Knavs on April 26, 1970 in Novo Mesto, in what then Yugoslavia is now Slovenia. She grew up in the nearby town of Sevnica, where her father worked first as a chauffeur and later as a car parts salesman, while her mother worked as a pattern maker and some even say a designer. As a teenager, Melania began modeling, eventually leaving her university studies in Ljubljana to pursue the career full-time. By the mid-1990s, she was working in European fashion markets, including Milan and Paris. She spent the following years traveling across Europe for modeling jobs, including one in which she was portrayed as the first female president of the United States in 1993. That's the video I showed earlier. Around the age of 23 or 24, she made Paris her primary residence, where she lived with her roommate Victoria Silvstedt, who I know for French sofa ads.
Quel design! Je le prends. Château d'Axe?
Gosh, the 2000s were Anyway, that phase of her life largely ended in 1996 when Melania moved to New York. The move was arranged with the help of Paolo Sampoli, a friend of Donald Trump, and a modeling agent who sponsored her immigration after meeting her during a scouting trip in Europe. Sampoli encouraged Melania to live near and socialize with people in the fashion industry, as she was a bit shy and didn't really lead the active social life that consumed many models at the time. She didn't drink much, she didn't party much, and managed her diet carefully. French photographer Alexandre Allais de Basseville, who met her in the early days of her New York career, later recalled that she looked rather lost and sad, like many foreign-born models who arrive in New York with no friends or family. Now, quick pause, because this interview that I found in the documentary, which I can't show you, unfortunately, I don't have the rights, this interview opened the whole research tangent for me. There's something in it that triggered me and led me to want to learn more about what happened on that day where they met. So try to picture this. Basseville is a pretty renowned photographer. He works with a bunch of very popular models. Melania just arrived in New York. She's 26, so technically she's too old to have a proper model career. She doesn't have a big portfolio either, just a few pictures. And this renowned photographer, Basseville, sees her. He meets her, they have a nice chat and everything, and he ends up taking nude pictures of her. I later learned that those pictures were allegedly unpaid. That was for exposure. She did that bold shoot for free. But the issue is that those pictures later resurfaced to tarnish the reputation of Melania. While her husband was running for office, Melania said that she was very proud of those pictures. But the funny thing is that those pictures were actually bought by the New York Post from Basseville. So Basseville sold those pictures for, I assume, a really good price. Now, these are all the information I managed to collect. And my interpretation of this is that Basseville really took advantage of Melania in this situation. The way I view it is that he saw this young woman who had barely any pictures in her portfolio, who just arrived in New York, clearly way too late, and he just thought he could make a few pictures out of this, some nude pictures for free that he could use for his own benefit, and eventually made a lot of money out of it. Now again, I don't know if that's exactly what happened. This is my interpretation based on all the facts I collected, but I know that this is something that happens a lot, especially in this industry. You know it too, we know it too well. Anyway, let's go back to Melania's story. In New York, Melania continued working as a fashion model, appearing in print campaigns and magazine spreads. She operated under the name Melania Knoss, which she used professionally for years. While she was never among the most famous models of the era, she kept working and became part of the city's fashion and social circles. In 1998, she met Donald Trump at a party during New York Fashion Week. Trump was already a highly recognizable public figure, known for his real estate business and media presence. They began dating shortly afterward, and their relationship unfolded over several years, during which Melania continued modeling while increasingly appearing alongside him at public events. Their marriage in January 2005, held in Palm Beach, Florida, marked a clear turning point. Media coverage of Melania intensified, and she began to be treated less as a model and more as a public figure tied to Trump's business and celebrity status. In 2006, the couple had a son, Baron William Trump, and later that year, Melania became a naturalized US citizen. For much of this period, Melania maintained a relatively low public profile, especially compared to her husband, but that changed when he announced his presidential run in 2015. Melania became part of a national political campaign, against her will, some said. There are reports that she cried when she learned Trump would become president, but we don't know whether those tears were from joy or despair, and I'll let you interpret that however you want. During the 2016 election, Melania appeared selectively, avoiding the constant visibility typically expected of political spouses. Her most prominent moment came at the Republican National Convention, where she delivered a speech that later drew criticism for including passages similar to one given by Michelle Obama in 2008.
So many of the same values. You work hard for what you want in life.
The values that you work hard for what you want in life.
Yeah, the incident became a major media story and reinforced her reputation as being unfit for the role of First Lady. Melania was mocked and claimed that she had been tricked by Donald Trump's team. In the movie, she takes revenge by disclosing the scene where she made a recommendation for Trump's inauguration speech.
His legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker in the fire.
As a way to redeem herself and her reputation. During that same campaign, Melania also appeared on television to defend her husband against serious allegations of misconduct in an effort to save the female vote. After Donald Trump's victory on November the 8th, 2016, Melania became First Lady of the United States. She was the first First Lady to be a naturalized citizen and the first whose native language was not English. But the real question isn't how Melania became First Lady, but what that role actually demands and whether she was fit for it. What is the purpose of a first lady? Big question, I know. Now, to be fair, that role has changed very little over the years. No matter how involved a first lady may become in state affairs, the role has always first and foremost been about support. It reassures the public that the men leading the country remain grounded by their partner. Journalist Cathy Martin argues in Hidden Power, Presidential Marriages That Shaped Our History, that the role of the first spouse is far from symbolic. As the person the president speaks to, first in the morning and last at night, Martin describes the presidency as inherently a two-person job. In that context, Martin says that the nature of the First Lady matters. Quote, if we suddenly had as First Lady a model whom we would look to for fashion tips alone, that would be a transformative moment, and I think with serious consequences. End of the quote. For Martin, the value of a first spouse lies in their ability to engage the president directly and substantively. Quote, if the president has got a smart, plugged-in partner who can get his attention and tell him what's going on in the land, and when he's being an idiot, as the best one have been able to do, that is in our interest. She adds, quote, everybody else serves at his pleasure. I think you guessed it by now, but Martin does not like Melania. She has even characterized her as, quote, the least experienced and the least prepared first lady in history. In the movie, Melania asserts that she wants to take the first lady role beyond social duties, but the movie itself doesn't really show how. It's just at the very end that a list of all of Melania's accomplishments as first lady appears one after the other. So yeah, the movie further convinced me that Martin's take, so the idea that first ladies have an important role to play, feels exaggerated to me. I think it's a very romanticized view of presidential couples. You know, it gives behind every great man there's a woman. It's the feminism for the desperate, really. The same desperate people who called Abigail Adams, the wife of President John Adams, a feminist for writing in a letter to her husband, remember the ladies. That's celebrated as proto-feminism by some scholars. And I'm like, are we that desperate for feminist icons? Like, our standards are so low, it's depressing. Guess what John Adams answered to that letter, actually? He said that American women had too much influence already. Good job, Abigail, at least you tried. Now, whether or not she's fit for the job, Melania has had time to prepare. On October the 7th, 1999, Trump announced his candidacy for the Reform Party presidential nomination.
Nobody's really hitting it right. The Democrats are too far left, the Republicans are too far right, and I don't think anybody's hitting the chord. Not the chord that I want to hear, and not the chord that other people want to hear.
She supported the move, and when asked what her role would be, she said, quote, I would be very traditional, like Betty Ford or Jackie Kennedy. End of the quote. That reference to Jackie Kennedy appears very clearly in Melania Trump's outfit at Trump's first presidential inauguration. You can see it on screen. There are clear similarities between Jackie's style and Melania's look. It was her way of signaling to the public that she was fit for the role after a long campaign that did not present her in the best light. That people-pleasing energy was definitely gone in 2024 when she showed up at the inauguration with this outfit, where she's clearly saying, I'm now setting my own terms. First ladies don't usually speak directly to cameras, so their outfits are a way to express themselves through symbols. Melania's black hat, which covered her eyes, was meant to provoke social commentary, with some suggesting that it created distance between her, the role, and her husband. As we said earlier, the First Lady is used politically to soften the image of a plugged-in, serious president. This is true for political leaders across the political spectrum. I'm talking about Melania in this video because her film just came out. But honestly, I'd rather make a video about Rama Douaji, Zohran Mamdani's wife and First Lady of New York. Like most First Ladies, Rama is mostly seen, not heard, and I assume that's also her choice based on her Instagram, specifically the absence of content related to her role as First Lady of New York. Her presence at official events and her relationship with Zohran have led to positive coverage of him, often presenting him as a cute, affectionate partner. However, I did see people online wondering whether the positive coverage from progressive media might be influenced by the assumption that Muslim men cannot be affectionate. There's so much anti-Muslim sentiment in society that it could be the case that the excitement around Zohran's public display of affection stems from surprise that a Muslim man openly values his partner. We can have this conversation in the comments. Unfortunately, we have to stick to Melania for today. In the movie, we get to see Melania's modeling experience. Her outfits are carefully picked and designed, and 60% of the movie is just her walking down the stairs, walking along corridors, walking out of the car and into the plane. It was a tribute to the catwalk. It felt like I was watching the new Devil Wears Prada trailer on repeat. She also shows herself having girl boss chats with Brigitte Macron, who would do anything for attention, and also the Queen of Jordan. You can tell Melania wanted to show that she's more than just a great body and a beautiful face. She said she wants to push the First Lady role beyond social duties, but that's all you see in the movie. The film starts with her claiming that everyone wants to know what it's like to become the First Lady of the United States. Yet the only moments I was drawn out of boredom were for the dress reveals, and I'd rather watch Drag Race for that. Melania wanted us to see her as a socially engaged First Lady, but it's impossible for us to take her seriously with Donald Trump as president. During Trump's first term, it felt like the First Lady role was split between two of the women in his life, Ivanka Trump, who better embodies the historical role of the American respectable First Lady, and Melania, who better fits the Mar-a-Lago traditional rich wife stereotype. By Mar-a-Lago traditional wife stereotype, I mean something very specific. I mean this.
Working hard for 2020.
So tell us what's going on here.
This is our hockey party.
These are the Trumpets, led by Tony Holt. They raise money for Donald Trump campaigns and are filthy rich. Some have inherited, others are the wives of businessmen. Melania certainly appears more sophisticated than them, but ultimately she fulfills a similar role, that of a mother and a wife to be brought to glamorous events with a few business ventures to brag about at fancy dinners. I went on another research tangent for the Trumpets and realized that a lot of these women's job is to wait around and stay attractive for when their husband needs them for an event. For a long time, Trump used Melania in that way and instead invited Ivanka to speak at political events, or at least stand in the background. Now, Trump's relationship with his daughter has been, against her will, quite strange. His tendency to systematically sexualize women extends even to Ivanka, who he has publicly complimented for both her looks and her intellect.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird!
Like Melania, Ivanka has had to apologize for her father many times. I've already given you some examples of Melania's intervention in the intro of the video, but I forgot to mention one that received a fair amount of backlash. You know, like most first ladies, Melania Trump launched her own civic philanthropic initiative called Be Best, which is mentioned many times in the film. Some of you already know where I'm going with this, but let me explain for the Gen Alphas and late Gen Z in the room. So Melania Trump rolled out her Be Best anti-bullying campaign in 2018. It focused on kids being kind online and staying out of trouble. But then her husband, whom she calls his big boy in some interviews, went on and murked a 16-year-old climate activist whose name is Greta Thunberg. He did that on Twitter, and suddenly everyone was tweeting #BeBest at him, just to remind him of that campaign that his wife was doing and about the whole irony of it. Now, Melania did not publicly scold him or call him out. She mostly kept her message positive, telling critics to contribute something good and productive. But the whole situation made her initiative feel a bit ironic to a lot of people. It reminds me in a way of Erica Kirk's defense of the president during that CBS interview when the student who had asked the final question to her dead husband was brought into the room to ask another one.
My call to action from that is parents, step up. Do you want your kid to be a thought leader or an assassin?
The whole setup was the kind of spectacles that makes Europeans like me see the US as a properly unhinged country. Now, that aside, the question was about Erica's condemnation of the shooter and her supporters' violence. And so the student asked whether she extended that condemnation to Trump.
President Trump called on 6 Democratic lawmakers to be tried for sedition, which he clarified was punishable by death. He then reposted a simple message: hang them. Will you condemn the violent rhetoric of Donald Trump, the most powerful and influential person on earth?
She avoided the question, just like she avoided questions quoting Charlie Kirk's most racist takes, defending them instead, much like Melania has done. It's funny though how the internet loves to imagine these women eventually leaving their relationships, whether it's the Erica Kirk, J.D. Vance law or the Melania Trump hat discourse. It shows that we do know that having to defend the indefensible is painful and deeply humiliating. And when the public starts to notice distance, silence, or irony, the next question follows naturally. In 2013, Donald Trump tweeted, quote, "I love watching the dishonest writers at New York Mag suffer the magazine's failure. One of them, Dan Amira, retaliated by writing, quote, your wife is waiting for you to die. There has been a lot of discourse around Melania Trump's relationship with Donald, especially after the infamous hat incident. You all remember it, we've shown it a few times already. Trump tried to kiss Melania Trump, but her black hat prevented it. Many wondered whether that moment marked the beginning of the end. Is Melania going to leave Donald now that Barron is an adult and she has her own life, image, and projects? I don't have that answer, I'm sorry, but I know two other stories, kind of similar stories, that I do want to share with you. Two stories with very different endings, but you'll pick which one you think is gonna be the one for Melania. So we're dealing with two first ladies, two European women who, strangely, look similar to Melania. Carla Bruni on the one hand, and Veronica Lario on the other hand. We'll start with Veronica, the ex-wife of Berlusconi. Veronica Lario met Silvio Berlusconi in the early 1980s when she was a young actress performing in the theater, and he was a married, immensely wealthy media entrepreneur on the rise. Their relationship began as an affair and gradually solidified into a long-term partnership. By the time they married in 1990, they already had 3 children together. For years afterward, Lario remained largely in the background, living the rich life inside Berlusconi's villas and therefore avoiding the decorative role of a political wife. But as Berlusconi's powers grew, so did the strains in their marriage. Lario became increasingly uncomfortable with the way his private behavior bled into public life, his obsession with youth, his habit of surrounding himself with showgirls and aspiring models, sometimes very young, all amplified once he was prime minister. These were not isolated incidents, but a pattern, one that Lario occasionally criticized publicly as degrading and corrosive. By 2009, after Berlusconi attended the 18th birthday party of a girl he barely knew, her accumulated frustration finally broke into the open. Lario denounced his conduct and filed for divorce. The split did not end his political career overnight, but it marked a turning point. The divorce received huge media coverage and amplified all the negative press that followed. It was the beginning of the end for his political career. But I could see a scenario like that happening for Melania. If you're not convinced, no worries, I have an alternative story for you. Carla Bruni was an internationally famous model throughout much of the 1980s and early 1990s. She had the kind of career Melania Knoss, 3 years younger than her, hoped to achieve when she moved to the Big Apple. Bruni eventually met Nicolas Sarkozy, the former French president, who was in midlife crisis and hungry for power after divorcing his ex-wife. Bruni, on the other hand, had left modeling behind and turned to singing. Their courtship was fast and highly public, culminating in marriage in 2008, just a few months after Sarkozy was elected. Unlike Veronica Lario, Bruni didn't resist the role she was given. She stepped into it, using her elegance and cultural capital to soften Sarkozy's provocative image and bring international glamour to his presidency. Sarkozy's terms unraveled, and corruption, investigations, and problematic foreign entanglement were brought to light. When that happened, Bruni stayed firmly by his side. The president was accused and put on trial over claims that his 2007 presidential campaign was illegally financed with millions of euros from the regime of Libyan dictator Gaddafi. Throughout the trial, which ended just a few months ago and sent Sarkozy in jail for 21 days, enough days for him to write a book that is now a bestseller. This guy is absolutely insane, he'll do anything for the money. So during that trial, Carla Bruni defended him and accompanied him and also allegedly helped him in setting up some of those shady businesses. She chose to stay for love, that's what she says. She wrote a song about this as well.
Peux-tu jouer une chanson, mon amour?
Avec plaisir.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
This story echoes Melania and Donald Trump's story in a different way. Melania has been many times in her life a victim, but that victimhood doesn't make her immune to criticism. She has supported her husband as he pursued his political agenda. She's still standing with him now. The film doesn't question her loyalty at all. While many suspect that she doesn't like her husband, I can tell you from watching the film that the only moments when we see emotion on her face are when Trump enters the room. I think she genuinely likes him, and that wouldn't be too surprising. She has found a form of comfort in her life as First Lady. She's filthy rich, she doesn't have to care about the consequences of what's happening in America, and she has forced herself into our faces, in our cinemas, onto streaming platforms, and even onto the goddamn Duomo of Florence. As the Guardian critic of the film pointed, quote, "It's one of those rare unicorn films that doesn't have a single redeeming quality. I'm not even sure it qualifies as a documentary, exactly, so much as an elaborate piece of designer taxidermy, horribly overpriced and ice cold to the touch and preferred like a medieval tribute to placate the greedy king on his throne. Ratner's films play like a gilded trash remake of Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest, in which a button-dyed Cinderella points at gold bubbles and designer dresses, cunningly distracting us while her husband and his cronies prepare to dismantle the Constitution and asset strip the federal government." End of the quote. We're approaching the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I actually really enjoyed researching this video, writing it. I have felt less motivated with YouTube in the last few months, I'm not gonna lie. And part of it is that I've been very busy working 2 jobs, so I'm pretty tired, but excited that the other non-YouTube job is slowly coming to an end and that I can spend more time reading and researching more and moving on to other projects that are much more related to what I do on YouTube. Anyway, enough with the project this, project that. I just wanted to let you know how I've been feeling lately, and I genuinely hope that you're doing okay, despite everything that is happening in the world. If you're not doing okay, that's totally normal. Please don't let yourself drown in despair. Take this as a calling to get out and join groups, social organizations, or creative groups. I've just joined a writing group in my area. I'm doing a lot more sports, which is what I love most in life, being active, being outdoors. Ultimately, my job here on YouTube is meaningless if you don't make something out of it. My videos are meant to spark conversations, to be used as tools or motivation to get politically involved, to join groups, to fight back and lead with our own ideas. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Big thank you to my patrons for their support, financial support, but also their feedback, their encouragements. It means a lot. On Patreon, you'll find exclusive content. We do monthly favorites. We have a Discord chat, occasional live streams. If you're interested in joining, and I highly recommend it, you'll find the link in the description box. A special thank to top tier patrons: C-Bev, Jose Bailey, Nofal Shamari, Fred, Hong Ching Paul-Louis Agenot, Patrick Button, Jeff Lee, Taya Matin, Nick, Brandon, Jem Siddle, Ujwal, Patrick Riley, Boris, Ria, Koriji, Tristan, Christopher, Ian, Donage, Alex, Manuel, Christopher France, and Perry. And thank you to the other ones who prefer to stay anonymous. That's it for me. I'll see you very soon. Salut! Sorry if the frame is a little bit different. Kicked the thing just a tiny bit, but I think it's okay.